Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming. Mr. Morton, thank you for coming. You are a very important person, too. We have to do, for 2023, our nominations and voting for board chair and vice chair. Do we have any nominations?
I'd like to nominate Sheila Oskotsky as chair.
And there's a second from Dave Dog. Can we vote?
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Vice chair.
Make a motion to nominate Woody if he's willing to accept.
Thank you.
Any second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Sheila?
Okay, so we do have a quorum, and the nominations and the voting is now over. So we'll look for the approval of the minutes of December 5th board meeting. Does everybody read them, read them? Is there any objections, or entertain a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
It's been approved and seconded. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion has carried. The treasurer's report, Mr. Murphy and Mr. Schuler.
You want me to go, you want to go
Yeah,
first,
let me
John?
go first because mine's a little more brief.
Okay.
And all I want, the summary page that you see that I produce every month, there's just one real highlight, and that's that the curbside income and the hazardous waste income, we got our second disbursement from the county. So that is the last bit of money we have coming into the coffers until next June. But that's obviously a good bit of income. Our tipping fees ran about $56,000 the last couple of months. So we are doing well. We didn't have any kind of expenditures outside of the norm last month. So we ended the year doing very well. John?
Thanks. I agree with that you're doing very well. Why don't we go to page 2 of the report that we put together. Year-to-date revenue, $3,918,840. That compares with on page 3, year-to-date expenditures of $3,643,066. So a surplus $275,774. So anytime you could break even or better, that's good. When you add that to existing cash reserves, the ending cash reserves are $3,829,264, which is very, very healthy. I mean, it's over 100% of reserves, of an annual expenditures are kept in reserve. So our rule of thumb at the county is anything 25% or better is good. So you're really good. I don't notice anything unusual in the expenditures either. Under budget on most every category, and about 90% of the budget was spent. So budget kind of conservatively, coming under budget almost every year. And then on page 4, this kind of shows the historical trend of revenue and expenditures. The revenue is the blue, the expenditures are the red. You can see since 2017, the blue revenue line has always exceeded the red expenditure line. So, hats off to Randy and John for managing this so well. You guys are doing really well. Page 5 is a breakout of the different revenue types. The solid waste fee being the largest, the tipping revenue being second largest, and then HHW income being the third largest. So those are the revenue types. And on page 6, the expenditures, the curbside pickup, that's the big cost item of $2.6 million, and I know you've had some increases in that recently, John, but you're still managing to stay under budget. Salaries and wages is $259,256. And then on page 7 is the health insurance fund. Solid waste is a separate fund within the county's health insurance fund, so their claims stay with them, their revenue stays with them. So it's just managed by the county's financial team and Gallagher, their actuary. But so for 2022, we talked about this actually. no money was put in, no employer money was put into the fund because you have cash reserves of, you had cash reserves of 295,784. So they did decrease, but they're still 247,479. So that's really solid for a five-person operation. I think your stop loss is per person is 100,000. I believe that's what it is. So you'd have to be very unlucky to have major claims of, a lot of major claims higher than that. So I think that's a good, healthy reserve. So it was in the budget, but it wasn't spent out. I know it's in next year's budget, so we'll talk, John and I will talk and we'll determine if we need to put more money into the health insurance fund, but so far so good. So I would give you an A+ on your financial report for the year.
A+.
And I believe we need to make a motion to accept the financial report.
I don't think we ever have.
We haven't? Oh, okay.
You can if you
Isn't that proper?
it's a good idea.
Okay, there's been a motion to approve the report, and it's been seconded. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And the motion has carried. So now we'll go on to the director's report.
All right, there's several things on the director's report that are mostly for discussion, but the first, I want to start off with just the hazardous waste usage figures. Just briefly, there's a whole year for Kerr Street, and the next page is for Fifth Street. And of course, Fifth Street is not open all year. But the only thing I wanted to point out is that our numbers, as far as residents using those facilities, actually went down in 2022. Now, I think there's probably several reasons for that. The people who are going to use it have used it, and there's really not a whole lot of reason to come back. But I also think we don't have a lot of publication of this. We have people that come in every single day and say, I didn't know you people existed. And we've been doing this for quite some time now. So we have an item in our budget called advertising that is, in my 11 years at the district, has never been used. It's $5,000. And so I guess I'm asking for an opinion about spending some of that money to advertise the hazardous waste center. I can't really tell you if it would be a mailing or some form of, we put it in the city's newsletter on the water bill every month. I don't know that that necessarily generates a lot of attention, but there has to be a way, because if the county has 200,000 people and we're getting 11,000 to come to the hazardous waste center, we're not really doing a big percentage of the population. Obviously, more people coming in is going to create more expense, but we do have money in the budget to cover more expense. I was thinking my idea would be to do a bit of a 3x7 or 4x6 type of card, a mailing card. To the same people we mail our calendars to, we mail a card saying, hey, did you know about the hazardous waste center, kind of a thing. So that's not a real expensive item, and I understand recycling districts sending out paper is not necessarily the best optics either, but I want to get this more publicized, because 10,000 people in a year, while it can get very busy, it is not nearly enough, in my opinion, as we should be taking in. So I guess I'm just saying, I think we're going to spend some money on some advertising in 2023. Does that make sense? Okay. The next few items actually are more discussion, and the district has had what's called a Citizens Action Committee. Well, by statute, we've always should have had a Citizens Action Committee. Due to the pandemic and several other items, that kind of has gone by the wayside. They met, they didn't really fulfill their obligations pursuant to the statutes, meaning that Citizens Action Committee has never, in my 10 years, come to the board meeting and talked. According to the statute, they're supposed to. They're not a voting member, but they should come here and at least say what they do and file a report with the board as to what they do. So what I would like to do is basically re-establish the Citizens Action Committee. And so in order to do that, the board has to decide how many people should be on that, what their capacity is, and what their duration of their term is. talking with Mr. Triple, you will see a memo in the package that Mike wrote to me, basically giving me the outline and the statutes and the guidelines for this committee. Like I said, there has been people on this committee over the years, but due to obvious reasons in the last few, they kind of didn't meet too much, obviously. So we need to decide, and as Mike said, let's figure this out, then we can put it together for a vote at our next meeting, as far as, once again, how many people on the committee, what their tenure is, and who they are made up of. Now, the statute does say that they should be made up of people in the industry, in the environmental community, which is kind of nebulous, and also people not in the industry. So we want an overall picture of our community. In the past, this has been a 3-person board. I guess, I don't know, Mike, if that's mandatory, if it can be more or less. It obviously can be less, but does it have to be more, or it doesn't matter?
It doesn't matter, but it should be at least 3 and probably, I wouldn't make it much larger than that, only because we all know that everybody's busy and it's hard to get folks to show up to meet to discuss anything, much less voluntary type boards. So
Okay.
3 or 4 is probably sufficient
Okay.
to satisfy the code section.
So
And I suspect John, I don't know about this, but I suspect John probably has some folks in mind.
I do, I do, and obviously not prepared for this, but we need to, if it is agreed that it should be 3 people, I would figure that their tenure should be a year, just to keep things moving into fresh faces and ideas. And there are people in the community that want to be a part of something. So if that's amenable to everyone, we have to draw that up for a resolution for the next meeting to be voted on and approved by this board. And then after that, those people can get together and start the process.
Do you think, excuse me, 1 year? I would think you'd want like a 2-year to keep people involved in
Okay.
just rotating people in and out.
And this is why this is open for discussion. I thought a year just to keep people's interest, you know.
The previous board, how often did they meet? Did they meet like just before we had our meeting?
No, they met approximately 2 to 3 times a year, but again, over the last 3 years, not so much. Just people weren't getting together all that much.
So it's not a huge time commitment on their.
Correct, correct. Generally speaking, they were to review the budget. They were to review any resolutions that were passed by the board. They have no authority. It's just public review, you know.
Is the term, if you go 1 year or 2 years, does it have to be replaced, or can they be renominated or reselected, or?
I mean, what I would probably do is have language in the resolution that whoever you appoint for the year continues to serve until such time as they're replaced or they resign. So in other words, you can just continue on with the same board if you're satisfied.
Sure, if they were willing to,
Correct.
right.
So the term is probably not as important as, they continue to serve until such time as they're replaced or want to resign or quit.
But as districts were set up, this was part of what districts were supposed to do. And so, going forward, now that hopefully life is back to normal, we want to continue to do that and get this board back up and running and doing what they do, and also attending a board meeting to show that we're doing what we're supposed to do.
So if 3 is satisfactory and the year long until they're replaced, we could bring a proposed resolution for the next meeting for your review with the specifics.
Okay? I appreciate that discussion. The next point of discussion is, in our contract for the curbside recycling with Borden Waste Away, there is a clause that Borden can increase the number of households that are being serviced by the curbside program. Now, in order to do that, that information has to be presented to this board, and then this board has to vote to agree to that, because obviously that raises our cost for each individual household. Well, at the beginning of this year, I received, the next page you see, I received the billing statement showing that the number of households would be increased. And obviously, that can't just happen without this board's approval. So Mr. Triple drew a letter back to Borden Waste Away, explaining the fact that, you know, by the contract, we have to approve, this board has to approve that. I asked for a list of households that were being serviced in the curbside program, and I took that list from Board and Waste Away. I compared it to our list, our database, and I came up with about 1,400 accounts that they were servicing that we didn't have in our program. Once I took a look at those 1,400 households, I noticed that they actually weren't households. A lot of them were businesses, fire departments, churches. Our address of 828 Kerr was actually on there 8 times. So there's obviously a discrepancy as what is a household and what isn't. Over the last 10 years that I've worked there, we have set up numerous churches, social clubs, food pantries, schools, businesses that were non-for-profit with recycling, daycare centers. What I've found on this list is that's mostly what the excess is. So Mr. Triple wrote this letter. I don't believe as of today, Mike, you have received a response.
I have not.
Okay. So that is, once again, this is just out there for this board's information, that we have a discrepancy in the household. The bill has been lowered back down to the original amount, so we're not paying the excess. And we have to determine now what is going to be charged and what isn't. The contract specifically says what is a household. And obviously, a fire department or a police department or our building is not a household. So we have to now determine, is there a few households that they picked up that we didn't pick up? Certainly. Out of 75,000 houses, we're going to miss a couple, and that's understandable. But the 1,400, 90+% were not-for-profit, people who don't pay taxes. So that is where we lie on that issue. And it's not excessive by any means after 10 years, but it's a number that we didn't have budgeted this year in our curbside program.
You start getting into nonprofits and churches and all kinds of things, that's a slippery slope. And, so I think you have to have a very tight definition of what a household is and stick to it.
And I agree. And we did set up a lot of not-for-profits and all the fire departments and several things like that. So yes, we have to define that. And within the contract, Mike, am I correct, there is a pretty firm definition of what is a household.
It appears apparent to me, yes.
Yeah.
Like any contract, I'm sure Gordon has a different opinion, so.
Right.
But
So,
we haven't heard a response, so
Right.
it's hard to tell you. So.
correct.
So are you suggesting that we don't service those not-for-profits?
Well, no.
Because of the definition of the word household?
I think it would be horrible optics to take those
Yeah.
away now.
So I guess I'm trying to understand what you're,
What I'm saying is we need to define with our partners at Borden, what is a household, what are we going to pay for, and then what are they going to continue to service to the community as a public service? Because that is part of the process.
but
So-
not taking those other ones away that's been
No,
established.
well,
Okay.
be my opinion, that would be
Okay.
horrible.
I
Yeah.
just want to make sure.
Yeah, it's just-
What kind of nonprofits are getting served?
Any food kitchen where a lot of cardboard and cans are coming from, those kind of things. Daycare centers. I know I set up at least 20 different daycare centers.
But is it then all nonprofits?
Well, all, no. I mean, obviously, these were people who approached us and said, hey, can we have recycling? Now, obviously, we didn't get them all, but we got anyone that approached us over the years.
Because that's what you do.
That's what we do.
Are they listed? Do we have them listed, which ones
We
not-for-profit?
have them listed in our program, in our database, but I don't know if our friends at Borden have them listed in their programs.
No, what I'm getting at is, sure, you have them, but are they within the qualifications of being non-for-profit?
Any,
Know that for sure? I mean, any of them that we're servicing, are we sure they're non-for-profit?
yes, what, that we set up, yes. churches, social clubs, schools, a lot of the parochial schools.
Are they listed? Do you have a list of those?
I could certainly create one, because we have them in our database under no fees, all they get is a calendar, so we keep them in that database.
I would think that we need to have a list of which ones qualify for non-for-profit, not to be charged.
And they never have been charged.
Yeah, but I'm
Right.
just saying, I think we need to have a list so that somebody comes and we can say, hey, these are the ones, list that we feel are non-for-profit, and these are the ones that we service. Now, if you want it, then you need to petition to the board of whether you fall in the category of being non-for-profit. But at least we have a list to see if there's anybody in there that would qualify, because somebody like that is already on the list. And then you just kind of close that loophole.
Okay.
So would you take all churches,
Would we? We always have, yes.
any church
Doesn't matter.
requests?
Yeah, we always have, yes. Now, not every church has requested it, and we certainly haven't knocked on every church's door, but those that have, we did. So I guess that is the discussion until we hear back from Board and Wasteway on
And
this.
there are escalators in the agreement for other issues, related to inflationary issues, fuel surcharges, that type of stuff, so those things will need to get worked through, I think, as a part of this discussion, probably.
Right.
And so probably by the next time we meet, I would guess would be enough time for them to have responded
I
to
would
your
hope so.
letter.
Yeah, I
Okay.
hope so.
Gotcha.
Okay. The last is, if you remember at our last board meeting, we have a problem in the back of our hazardous waste center that every time it rains, we get a lake. And we obviously have a drainage issue. And so we had a company called Weaver Consultants put in, or come in and do a boring sample and find out what was wrong with our lot. And they issued a 38-page report saying, your dry wells are filled with dirt, and your lot is not graded correctly. Once again, for discussion, certainly not for a resolution yet, but this is their idea or their recommendation is dig out 7 inches of dirt and gravel, re-dirt and gravel, clean out your dry wells. They're functional, they're just filled with dirt, and put in either concrete, which I'm quite certain we can't afford, or crushed limestone, or a mix, little bit of concrete, a little bit of crushed limestone, that kind of thing. In order to create, what we have now, to anybody who's ever been there, anytime it rains, the public cannot turn around. That's how big this lake of water gets. So we have people coming in and people trying to leave, and they're nose to nose, and they can't. Once again, not good. So for a point of discussion, I would like to go forward with, we obviously can't take bids because this is not anything that's out there yet, but I would like to do a little exploratory work on cost, just to see if this is even cost effective. We have $165,000 in our budget for building and grounds maintenance. Certainly, that we're going to have other things that come up. We're not going to try to spend all of that. But in order to alleviate this problem, it's going to be fairly large project. Is it a public works project that takes somebody oversight? Like when we did our roof, we had to have an architect oversight that. I don't know until we know roughly what kind of dollar figures we're looking at.
How many dry wells do you have?
2,
2.
yes.
What's the capacity?
No one knows because they're filled with dirt. So,
Like a vac truck or something
Yeah.
that could get in there to
Exactly.
vac those out?
exactly. So that's part of the process. The digging out is part of the process. The relaying of any form of, you're going to use asphalt, concrete, or gravel, whatever it might be, that's part of the process. The logistics of all this is we're trying to run a hazardous waste center at the same time. So there's a lot of things to think about before anything can go forward to any form of board approval.
What's the surface right now?
It's dirt and old gravel that has just been, and that's their recommendation to remove because most of it is just, it's non-functioning.
Yeah,
Clay,
I've
mostly
been
clay.
there, and when it's raining, I have an F-150 pickup truck, and man, it was
Yeah,
pretty messy.
yeah. It's bad. And when we have people coming in and out in regular cars.
I couldn't imagine.
It's not good. And on top of that, when it dries out, the thin dust is just awful that blows in. It's in our building, it's everywhere. So for employees' sake, there's just a lot of reasons to go forward on this. But all I'm saying is, we kind of know now from this company what we need to do. We don't know the cost, obviously can't ask for bids because we're not there yet. We can kind of do some exploratory work to find out what kind of dollars this is going to cost before we come to the board, hopefully in March, and say, hey, this is where we're at, let's go forward.
So you're asking the board for approval? Or do you-
Well, no, open for discussion, once again. I mean, can I proceed? Is this something that we want to do? Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would say yes. Do
Okay.
we have to have a formal motion for that? No, we
No.
can just say yes, we want you to
Okay.
run the numbers by us for the next
Right.
March meeting to see if this is within your budget of the 165,000.
Right.
Or don't you, and you also have other streams of revenue if it were to be a little more, I would.
Well, not necessarily. That's it, yeah. So,
Okay,
yeah, we know where the constraints are. And if you're asking me, as a financial guy, I'm not spending everything on the lot, because the next thing you know, you get a hole in the roof. So, you know, or the furnace blows up. So you got to keep some money on the backside. So I know where we want to be, and so let's see what goes for. I will have obviously more detail. We just got this report last Friday, so we'll have more detail in March.
okay.
That's all I have.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions over that? I think we're all agreed that we're going to proceed with that, okay. Moving on then to old business, is there any old business? Is there any new business? Public comments? Mayor, did you have something? Oh, I thought you looked like you wanted to say something. Okay.
Just got a question here for John.
Sure.
We've always been meeting here in South Bend, since we have a nice new city hall that we like to promote, and I think our mayor would be more generous. I haven't talked to him about it, but if we could have a meeting or two over in Mishawaka, since we do have the Fifth Street recycling and everything like that, I think it'd be nice for the board members to come over and see our facility. And David, that's something that we could,
Absolutely.
you know, so if we don't always, Mishawaka, we don't always have to come here, that we can utilize our building, and Mr. Triple would appreciate that too.
I'm all for it.
And like I say, Dave would appreciate it, I would, Mike, and that. Now, maybe John wouldn't, but,
Well, I'm fine.
I'm fine.
I'll just come on my way.
but I mean,
in
if we
to
could work out
and
some kind of schedule that we could have,
Absolutely.
you know, a couple over there a year. or
I
whatever.
I don't have any objections to that.
I just live by Miracle Park.
Oh, yeah, you're in New Carlisle.
Yeah, but it's just a thought. We could do
Absolutely.
that.
We'll put it down.
Okay, any other public comments? If you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Good morning, everyone. Kyle Woolsey with Borden Wasteway. I'm Director of Sales. This is Eric Ivory. My address is 2626 Greenleaf Boulevard in Elkhart, Indiana. I don't know your address.
Yep. My address is 30937 Villa Drive in Granger.
So first off, thanks, Mr. Schwellnus, for reaching out and encouraging us to attend this meeting. We appreciate that. And Mr. Triple, we did receive your letter, and we will prepare a formal response by the end of the week. As far as the house count is concerned, this is admittedly not something that we audit closely over time. And so as part of a year-end review, in addition to making our cost modification, as you referenced in the notice, we also audited our house count and found a pretty large discrepancy. I think that's been outlined fairly accurately, the majority of which would be not-for-profits, fire stations, et cetera. But noted the 8 times that the Kerr Street address was in there. We too need to scrub the data and negotiate in good faith, as you mentioned in your letter. So we're prepared to do that. I think that's all that we have. We're just, you encourage us to attend these meetings, and we will be here more regularly.
If I might say, by contract, they're supposed to come twice a year.
Sure, certainly.
Yeah.
Yep. And so admittedly, we haven't been as attentive as we should be, and we appreciate that encouragement. We'll be here and available for you all to assist in anything that you need. And Eric Ivory will be the main point of contact. And Eric, I didn't know if you had anything to say, but.
Nothing more to add, other than we appreciate the invitation for being here today, so we'll be here more often. So,
Very- Borden is our largest vendor at 2.2 million a year, so it's nice if they have a representative in case we do have any questions, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. We'll have to make sure if we change the location that they're
Yeah.
informed of the location. Okay, is there any other public comments at this time? Mr. Triple, do you have anything?
I do not, thank you.
Okay, okay, then at this point, I'll make a motion for adjournment. Okay, it's been moved. All in favor?
Aye.
The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.